Hi, this is a very quick spoiler warning to let you know that in this commentary, we are going to be discussing major plot reveals for later on in the series, including who really killed Keith Flaps. So if you want to avoid those spoilers, we wholeheartedly encourage you to watch the series first before you come back to this. Thanks very much.
We were all just like trying not to ruin the tape.
That's not why I'm showing this to you. Laugh at me.
But I really wanted to be Dickie Rolex when I read that character.
Hello and welcome to the episode commentary for episode 3 of Murder for Dummies. This episode is called Opportunity, and it's the one where we find out where everyone was on the night of Keith Flaps' murder. My name is James Hamilton. I am the writer and creator of Murder for Dummies, and today I'm joined by
Alex McCallum. I played Darren Wound, and also I'm in Casual Violence, which means I helped co-develop the thing.
I was waiting for you to give me a segue and say, and I am joined by, but never mind. Hi everyone. I'm David Arrondelle, and I play Dickie Rolex on Murder for Dummies. I was also a co-exec producer and co-developed the show as part of Casual Violence. And I am joined by...
Very good.
You pointed in the wrong direction, but otherwise that was
For me, I didn't.
Right. Well, my name is Odinn Orn Hilmarsson, and I did the music and some of the sound stuff business malarkey.
You did a lot of the sound stuff business.
A fair bit. Yeah.
You did
Bits and
quite a
bobs.
significant chunk of the sound stuff business.
Yeah.
And
Back
you
to
did
you,
the score
James.
for the whole thing, which is wonderful.
Yeah, that's all right.
And it's fine. Yeah,
Let's just
you've
throw
done
it back to
better,
you
I'm sure.
so that
Um,
save some of the gush, for later.
Yeah, we've got so much gushing to do. It's going to be an episode full of gushing. And on that note, let's kick off episode 3.
My name is
Which
Keith
starts, of course, with the wonderful Sean Garrett.
Here he
Not
is.
playing Keith Flaps, but
No,
playing
but we don't
Julius
know that
Warren.
at first, and I think it's a
Yeah.
great way to open the
Yeah.
episode because it makes you go, but wait.
I know, and he's so good, just the way he leans into it.
Just joshing.
Yeah.
Julius Warren.
That
One
beat
thing
is amazing. I love it. That's
Yeah,
very
it's
slight.
so funny. It felt like such a good opening.
Yeah.
One thing I really wanted here that we didn't get, because I think just makeup budget was a bit beyond us, is there's an episode of This Time with Alan Partridge where they have a guest on the show that's like someone who looks exactly like Alan Partridge, and it's Steve Coogan and just like a lot of makeup, and they've sort of doubled it. And I really wanted to sort of make him more feel like an off-brand Keith, but it does work still story-wise. I know you've got Plank and Octagon.
Yeah.
I think this is a really nice moment for Sean because obviously he's so good, but a lot of his featuring is in, archive footage or photos or flashbacks. So to have a moment where he's actually present in the real-time world of the show as an actor, it just feels really nice, and it just lets him kind of flex a bit of his range.
Yes, he's playing a real, like a very real person, and he looks like an actual person, and he does it very well. He's very convincing.
Yeah, a rare real person in the show, for
one of
sure.
those.
Doesn't die, of course. I love this from Plank and Octagon, this little...
God, I love it.
Have we talked about how we cast Plank and Octagon in previous
I
ones?
think we may have done. You weren't there for in episode 2 commentary, but I think we did a bit, which is that I specifically wanted an actual double act, or like people from a sketch group who already had chemistry and worked together, and Taro were amazing, and we're incredibly lucky to get to it then. That was actually, I think, the first thing for Plank and Octagon that we shot at all. And it was reading episode 3. I think we talked about this in the last commentary, but it was in reading episode 3 that Luke sort of brought up that we might need something to kind of interrupt the flow of the documentary episodes. But obviously we went back and put them in episode 2. Greg's dead.
Oh, Greg.
Oh,
Greg's
Greg.
Dead.
Stop dying, Greg.
And you don't think you should stop?
I think this is where we really do start to push the different captions a little.
I love it.
Yeah, that's so good.
It's so funny.
Escalating Tom's like, he's got a little knife there, but then
There's a progression with Tom Flam. He's always more paranoid.
Yeah, it's one of those things I really wanted to, in a way, almost push that slightly more than we ended up doing. I think it is almost partly a solution to a problem. Like we always wanted to do something like that with the lower thirds, but in this one, the way he's holding the knife means you can't see it very clearly. And I think when I wrote it, I imagined it sort of being a bit more present in his hand so that you could see it. And so we had a little bit of a debate of like, do we try and minimize the escalation thing? Do we try and find a way around this somehow?
I wasn't at the
And in the end, the captions, the lower thirds really do the job so nicely.
Not that
I love her.
even better.
Multi-Widow is a favorite of mine for that as
Yeah,
well. But
yeah.
I love how
Yeah.
she's dressed,
It's gone now.
and the glove is so
That
funny.
detective friends.
And then, of course,
Oh, we were only
nice
round.
funny little
Yes.
gag there.
Which makes sense. In the first episode, eagle-eyed viewers will notice that Detective Brent calls her the ex-wife, which could refer
Shush,
to...
guys. Shush. It's me. Shush.
I'm sorry.
That's all
Of course, silence for Dickie.
Great flyer.
Yes.
It's very Edinburgh Fringe.
It is
Yeah.
very Edinburgh.
Mm,
Free French.
yeah.
Well, I was a pro. Doesn't matter how many tickets I sell.
I
I
love-
get up
I
on
think
stage.
when we shot this, when I screw it up, I think we actually did a few takes because they weren't happy with the way that I screwed up paper. My lack of RADA training showing.
Clearly, yeah. But it's like it's a perfect like impotent throw.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
It just feels so pathetic. And again, just like your caption of Nobel Peace Prize winner is really funny. And Madison's opening one of like unfazed by recent murders. It's like very much like these. So this is a big set piecey bit for Amy.
8:48, which was verified by security footage.
And it's just a nice long turn for her.
Discovered
Where you sort of
Just
first see the mask slip a little bit later on.
Yeah.
Just rewatching a lot of these, like I feels like the locations for all of these characters is
The detectives.
pretty bang on. You know what I mean? I feel
Yeah.
like
To Detective Friends.
No, they
she
truly
looks
are.
like she's in a like, yeah. I think well done, location scout.
Well,
Whoever
also,
you
it's
were.
mostly Roberts, but like we got so lucky really with a lot of these. Like I think one thing Roberts is very good at when it comes to this stuff, he's very resourceful when it comes to thinking about locations, and very smartly, I think we've talked about this in other episodes, but the Dickie Rolex flat is also the Tom Flap is also where episode 6 is shot, and then where Madison is where Madame Puckerbrush is also shot. It's where Susan Harrison stuff is also shot. I think we've mentioned these things before, but like these locations really versatile,
Yeah.
and he's got such a good eye for how to kind of frame things.
Yeah.
Because honestly, coming in this room to begin with, you know, it's like you're not sure it is going to look right, but then once it's there and you're seeing it on camera, like full credit to James Roberts, it's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
it looks exactly right.
It looks much higher budget than it is.
It does,
Oh,
that's
it
our
sure does.
secret.
So no one would get suspicious when I carried him inside. Is that your theory, Esther Farrago?
She's so angry, but it's
Yeah.
it's so she's playing it so straight, but it is so funny.
Here,
Like
I've got something you
And I
can
do
practice
remember
with.
us having a slight debate on whether this needed
Big
music or sound or
exclusive
something,
interview.
but actually we
Did
sort of
you
start a
take
little bit when
his
she's
lap?
going
Admit it.
through her very sort of well put together story of her alibi, but then leaving it completely bare for when she's kind of not
Breaking.
cracking, but breaking.
yeah, because it's like
I
we're
think-
seeing something that we're not meant to see, right? So you
Yeah.
don't want to feel like that's ordinary part of it and sort of scored in that way. And
Yeah.
it's an interesting conversation that I guess we had throughout. Is like, do we want to punctuate this with a bit
Yeah.
of score to emphasize it? Do we want to emphasize it by having nothing?
Exactly.
They just don't admit it.
Susan, did you like the show?
This is one of my favorite little bits of physical puppetry from
I
Beth.
mean, Beth does amazingly.
She
Yeah,
does.
she
I
does
mean, we
really
sang her
good.
praises to her in episode 1, but like so specifically that reach of like Henry shutting her up.
Yeah.
She'd done like 2 hours of
Mhm.
ventriloquism lessons with Sean,
Yeah.
and then just practice by herself, and it's so good and feels so natural.
Yeah.
Love this, Danny. Whose idea was it to have the expert?
Oh my god, we've asked this in like literally every commentary she's come on.
Okay.
It's all right. I believe it was Dave. There's contention on this. From Dave,
I think it was me.
but, he's now claiming it.
With me backstage. The whole thing's mental. Right?
I do really
How
like
is
this
it
from you, Alex.
harassment?
Alex, have you still got that T-shirt and do you still wear it?
surely.
I don't. Actually, I don't know where it's gone. I think Roberts gave it to me for the
Even if
shoot.
his hair
Roberts
or
has it.
Oh, I wasn't allowed to say
saliva
no.
Was it?
is It's hair
Yeah.
and saliva he no longer needs.
Mm.
But I do.
It's very funny delivery of that.
And again,
And I like-
very
oh, I like-
Wyman delivery.
It is very Wyman, and also I'd say it is very you, Alex. It's just the way you sort of pick up the thing and you look quite pleased with yourself. It's just,
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
really
Very
well
happy.
performed, and it just
Very
feels
good looking
like-
pleased with myself. That's
For the
Yeah.
fan club
very
treasurer.
method.
You are.
They didn't go. In the end,
But here's the thing
Oliver
that's really
Henry
nice is
Honey
that I
and
feel
Von
like
Bevan
there's,
Massick,
this was such an easy character to cast as you, and I think I literally
Mhm.
wrote Darren more than any of the other characters, and I wrote this for you, knowing that you would
They didn't go.
do it and be able to play this kind of guy really well.
And
But
anyway, the
it's
first
not that I
half of the
didn't think
show
you'd be
was
able to bring
alright.
it this
He
deeper
had this
layer,
great
but it's
bit
so
on
impressive,
epic
honestly,
war
like
between puppets and
seeing
dummies and how
again
puppets should
Darren
go strung
crack
up by their
here
strings.
a little bit, and this
Please.
like
Mm.
just this little
Stop
underlying
asking me
like
about
aggression and tension
them.
that's in him, and how you bring
Okay.
that out really for the first time in this
They
episode,
weren't there.
but then also in episode 4 as
That's
well.
the end of it.
Mm.
I love it. It's really, really
It's
good.
like trying to control yourself when you're really tired and like your child is like talking a lot, like that kind of like when the swing sneaks out. You've got to be like, no, you want to control yourself.
I was keen to see the public's reaction.
But I really wanted to be Dickie Rolex. When I read that character, I was like, oh,
Did you really? I didn't know
Oh,
that.
did you?
You never
Yeah,
I
pitched
didn't
for
know
it.
that.
no.
Imagine.
David, could you see yourself doing Darren?
One for you.
I think it could probably be
It's in your range.
in my range
Could have done
somewhere. Yeah.
You could have done it.
For the remake, when we remake it,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
10 years
But
from now.
Shuffle people about a bit.
Mm.
James will do the music.
But
Yeah.
I often feel this with even going back to like our live shows and things. I think having worked together for such a long time, I think James has a really good handle on where each of our kind of strengths are when he's writing. And I think you may not know who specifically you're writing for, but you've probably got a rough idea, James, haven't you? Let's be honest. Like you can know. You think,
usually. I don't necessarily, like you say, know specifically who I'm writing for, but once it's written, I'm like, okay, well, it
I'm a
feels
human rights lawyer.
clear where
Okay.
these, where everyone should go.
Yeah.
But there is
Murder
sometimes a little bit of
on the death
flexibility with that, and we've changed it
I
around
think
before a
no
couple
one
of times.
deserves to die.
Yeah.
We didn't mention. I'm going
Thank
to pause
you.
for a second because there is just that moment. Actually, see if I can just replay it because it is that the cat thing. It's nice to bring
yeah.
up and show.
yeah.
Dave, do you want to talk us through how that happened? You can see that little movement there when you let go of the cat.
Yeah. That is the fluffer from a boom mic that someone has on a piece of string, and they pull it, and then we add the sound of a cat. So yeah,
Yeah.
really like high end effects in it, you know.
I mean, and also, funnily enough, that thing on a boom mic is called a dead cat.
Oh, is it?
Commonly, yeah.
Ah,
So yeah, there was a lot of. It was actually very fun trying to put the sound design together for a cat going across a wooden. Yeah, that was good times.
I know who stepped
I
in.
love
How many
this
cats did
turn
you
from
murder in the
you.
process?
It was only. It was
You've
only
got to
3.
figure it out. It's
fine.
Foley.
Yeah,
Foley's got to
yeah.
come from somewhere.
It's tax deductible doing that. Yeah, it's fine.
So obviously we're getting reconstructions for the first time here.
Oh, and this is
Introducing
very
that as a
exciting.
concept. It looks really good. And
Where's
Dave,
this
I
shot,
love
by the way?
music.
Which theatre is this?
It's in a
Just killed
theatre.
someone.
I can't remember what it's called. It's a theatre in South London. Your delivery of that line, Dave, is the
Yeah.
manliest thing a person
Don't
can
ruin
do.
it.
Don't ruin it. It's
Yeah.
not funny. But I just like the turn you've taken here from being very frustrated to like,
So there you
I've
have
got
it.
something you want,
was
and I'm going to
Tom
be sort of
Wilson.
so smug and slimy. The look at your nails, great.
Mhm.
And we're getting into. I mean, Luke's reaction here is so good, but
Yeah,
we're
I
now getting
love
into
this.
an
Yeah, yeah.
iconic
Don't trust a
Yeah.
guy
bit
who,
of
literally
murder.
So good.
released a single called "Die by My Hand, Keith Flat."
Oh,
So good. So the music video was a reshoot because we'd shot it without doing a video because we didn't think we'd be able to afford it, and the idea was we would just have like a record. I'm going to pause on this because I want to talk about your face here specifically.
Yeah.
But just to finish the story, I think because for budget reasons, all I was going to do was just have like what you sometimes get in these documentaries, which is like just a picture of like the 7-inch or something like that, so we see the album cover. And when we were in the edit and we were looking at this, I think Luke said like, I really I know we don't have the budget, but I really, really wish we could have like a music video here. And because we were sort of planning a few other like reshoots and pickups anyway, we started talking about it, and Luke suggested essentially doing it like Pump Up the Jam, which is that 90s video that gets used a lot in the Philomena Kunk show, where it keeps cutting the Pump Up the Jam. It's like that, like with a horrible like green screen background. And so he's like, if we just do something like that, it would be theoretically quite easy. Obviously, it looks way better than that because Roberts takes an idea and jumps off a cliff with it. Like, I think like will go very, very far in like pushing how much he can do it. It looks fantastic. But I'm so pleased we actually then went and shot a bunch of the video. There is slightly more video that I hope we release at some point. Sadly, like not tons, but here where it cuts to the chorus of like, I want you to die by, I want you to die by. That is, yeah, we do have some music video for that, which we shot, I think, just because we were there. But by this point, the cut to you, Dave, nodding along to your own song, thinking, yeah, this is the best. Like, I'm really good, actually, is, I think it's the most I've laughed at any point watching anything in the show was the first time I saw it. It completely broke me. And so even though we'd shot it, at one point Roberts was like, well, we could kind of put it over the top so you can see both. I'm like, no, we don't want to distract from this. Also, Odinn, of course, you did the composition for this. I think I wrote the lyrics. I was very proud of Ampersand personally as my contribution. But then musically, you're such a fucking earworm, man. Like, honestly, I was genuinely, with this and the other song you did, and the Fungostein theme, just very, very fucking catchy. And with this one specifically, obviously we were trying to kind of hit, 80s, 90s novelty song. Did you have anything specific in mind for composition for it?
I think I listened to a lot of like Chaz and Dave, sort of just like, and I think who are the people who do that? I've got a brand new combine harvester.
Wurzels.
Wurzels, yeah. I kind of went
Dave's
through.
favorite
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And you know what? Actually, I do remember an early reference from me is Keith and Orville, actually, because
because I remember you sending that to me because he is a ventriloquist.
Yeah, and there's this sort of really horrible song that he sings with Orville, which is like Orville, who is your very best friend? You are, and it's just really disconcerting and weird. And I just thought that's too balladic for what we were gonna. What
that
this
is such a
going to
good
be.
reference, and it feels like a reference I feel like I should have known about before writing.
It was buried in my brain. It's something we used to play to each other at the house I used to live in, because it was just horrific, and so it felt very true, kind of in that kind of. I don't know. I mean, it's a weird period for novelty songs because
they really had their time, didn't they?
Yeah, definitely. Combine harvesters, a flightless bird who's friends with a very old man. Like it's just a bit bizarre, and so then after just kind of mainlining that and a bit of acid, I think the song then appeared.
I think there's definitely on a conversation we will not have time for, but I think there's really is something interesting about like you don't really get novelty songs like this anymore, and people don't write songs like that are meant to just be like a bit of fun, and because I guess people don't want to be like embarrassed or do anything that feels a bit cheesy, but I think they don't care about that. It's like when people talk about how like it's like, oh, I hate the fact that Yellow Submarine's on Revolver. It's like, it's a fucking kids song. They wrote a kids song, and like it's a kids song that every kid fucking loves. Like it's great, but it is just a thing of the times. You just wouldn't. Does that even happen anymore?
Cheesy was okay. Cheesy you were allowed.
Okay.
Yeah, cheesy was mainstream in some ways. Not mainstream exactly, but it was like it was allowed to be at the mainstream table, and people would be like, it's
Crazy Frog killed Cheesy. I think that was the last. Or Gangnam Style, maybe that was the last one.
I thought with this bit, I thought a little bit about Dickie's reaction to having it played back to him and what that is, and it kind of, for me, it was a toss up between really kind of leaning into just like the stony faced, no emotion, like that doesn't prove anything, or actually no, I think he would just be really enjoying his masterpiece,
And what a great choice!
Felt like the most natural Dickie-ish response, I thought.
and you are just sort of nodding your head along, and it's very just matter of fact. It's great.
It's so funny.
I don't think that proves anything. Other than that I'm an excellent lyricist.
If there was anyone
favorite
it
bit
would have been
in the
Malloy,
whole show.
as in the guy whose knife it was, and
So
who
we've got a real
loved killing,
beginning of an
and who was
escalation from
found
Luke
covered in
here as
blood.
Tom, because it's really
My-
going to
my-
start drilling into him.
My favourite thing about this is that he's wielding a butter knife, but yet in the background he's got a bike and a guitar and a nice work from home setup. Like it looks like he's got he's otherwise got his shit together.
Well, this documentary ruins his life, I think.
Yeah,
absolutely.
He is going fine. Yeah.
I love this thing of I love how Claire plays this as Annabelle. Just the absolute matter of factness of I'm just gonna
I had to take a photo. I
ruin
thought it was so funny.
ruin my son's life.
I told you. I was with Malloy all night.
We won't get too deep into that.
A lot of these plants are fake, aren't they? They're like added in post.
Yeah, some of them are there, but then Robert genuinely did add a bit of the sort of surrounding foliage. I think he just added as a visual effect. That's a good thing to
weren't
point
enough
out.
flowers.
You've met him. Doesn't he just have one of those
It's a
faces
really
that makes
mean
you want
thing to say about
his
Luke's
nose
face.
or something?
And yet he did it.
It's not how I feel about Luke's face, just to clarify. Luke has a lovely
Yeah.
face.
But no one heard that and was like, well, that doesn't make sense. Everyone was like, yeah, okay, yeah, I can see that.
No one pushed back on it.
Yeah.
Is this moment with the iPad, is that an unintentional nod to The Last Dance with Michael Jordan watching the interview on the
I can
iPad?
confirm it is completely unintentional. Because,
Okay.
So is it an unintentional? Can you have an unintentional nod?
Yeah.
It is unintentional. I've never seen that.
Okay.
But I just thought it was really funny that he's trying to sort of talk himself out of a hole, and he's actually being quite smart about it, because when he brings up oh, if you stabbed him, there wouldn't have been any blood pressure, is a really good point. And it just felt very funny to just undercut and contradict that as much as possible with the cutaways from what other people were saying. That little glance to camera from Fungo is so sinister, but also very cheeky.
And of course, we just missed my cameo. I'm the.
Oh yes, I'm
the person...
sorry.
No,
Yes,
no,
you
no, no.
are.
That's absolutely
Yeah.
fine. I don't think it was a particularly good performance.
Oh, that was you. That was you going.
Oh. Yeah. Also not very good. Not very lived in. I don't think.
So we sort of wrote it meant to be like the old chat show Parkinson, and so I think nominally you were meant to. Oh, you weren't specifically meant to be Parkinson.
I do not have a parky in my pocket, unfortunately.
So, I didn't want to say anything because it looked really bad that I was there.
That's his podcast. You're listening to Parky in your pocket.
I mean, I don't want to get into this, but someone has been doing AI Parkinson, and it makes me want to fucking shoot my brains out.
But no, I think it's his son who's got all the access to all the archive footage and stuff, and
yeah, but AI.
Wow, okay.
Anyway, I want to talk about this because it's just there was that moment. There's just this little glance to camera, the feigned casual moment was just setting up, setting up this whole thing.
No, I can't.
And again, it was just a really nice discovery, I think, because I don't think when I wrote the first scene with the reconstruction guy that I was definitely going to bring him back. But then when we get to figuring out the ending for this, that look from Sean, what if we gave you more money?
Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah, and Odinn, your score there is so good. It's just that it really accentuates it and makes it so funny.
Yeah, pretty much anything for money.
Again, it's that question of did you just sort of tweak the dial a little bit, just make it because I mean Sean's already doing enough, but
but it is just perfectly timed with the way he's looked to camera. And so this is an interesting bit because I think it's the first quite ambitious formal structural thing that we've done in the show, and in a way it's quite complicated. We're saying there's a reconstruction where Tom has insisted on playing himself to tell a fake version of what happened with a reconstruction actor who looks uncannily like his real dad, just so he can get his act out a scenario where his dad is nice to him. And so it's a lot to kind of get your head around. And I was a little bit worried about the clarity of it, but nobody's had a bump on understanding what's happening and what's going on.
It makes
And so
complete sense.
Yeah.
And that performance, oh man! And actually, I just want to point
really
out, I had not noticed that before, when there was a little chyron saying reconstruction, there were quotation marks around reconstruction.
Yes,
I only
that was
just
something-
now noticed that.
That was
That's
something
great.
that I insisted on for this reason, for the clarity thing, to try and make
Right.
sure, okay, there is a difference between the reconstruction we saw earlier and reconstruction as like Esther kind of telling us subtly that this is all bollocks. He's going so big and silly with these expressions, but then look at his face.
And isn't he?
I really
isn't
like
Luca actually like crying almost.
Yeah, he is. There's a shot you cut back to him in a second where it's like,
Weird thing. He was wearing this blood pack on his chest for the second half of
in this sequence, it's so stupid, but I really like when Sean says, we can go trips to Thorpe Park, to Legoland, just names all these places that I'm pretty sure you can only go to with like just one pass. And this is kind of like, we can do any of these things that this pass allows us to do.
I didn't know that. I didn't think about that at all. I'm going to pause it for a second to talk about two things. One is off the back. Yeah, I know, it's a great shot. It's so creepy.
Yeah.
Didcot Railway Museum, I think. So that's a callback to a sketch we did called Prior Engagement. And I think, I can't remember. I feel like it was you, Dave, who had specifically pitched Didcot Railway Museum. It might have been.
No. It's Luke, because Luke's from near Didcot.
Right. So I think for that sketch, Didcot Railway Museum comes up as like a school trip that the two characters went on, and so that's just a little callback to that as a sketch. And then here, of course, we've talked about this a bit in other episodes, and of course, if you watch the whole show, you know about this because it comes up in the finale. But this shot, other than being very creepy, is the biggest clue as to who committed the murders, because it's repeatedly emphasized that Fungo is a one-of-a-kind doll, irreplaceable, and he's missing. No one knows where he is. In the 90s, when this scene would have been taking place in real life, Fungo would be there, because this is before he went missing. But it's a reconstruction. He shouldn't be there. So obviously this means Esther has him. It's the only explanation for why he could be there. And so it was the thing that to me was like, here is the biggest, most obvious clue, other than the fact that you can see Lucy in the crime scene photo at the beginning, but that's only for a couple of seconds. Like if you paused and tried to look at that, and you can't tell it's Lucy for sure, so it's not a dead giveaway. But with this, it's like it's literally staring you in the face, which I was really proud of.
I think we did have a bit of a discussion as to whether it was too obvious, like during the development, but it's not. It just flies by you, and you're like, oh, right.
So wow, because it's hiding in. Oh, look at his face there. That expression. But it is exactly that. Yeah, because it's like you. It's hiding in plain sight. It's like there's a version of your mind that's like Fungo is meant to be there, but when you actually think about it, he's not meant to be there, and it's definitely the thing I'm proud of for the mystery. But yeah, I want to make sure we end this section. Oh, look at him! The contrast between how emotional this is and how big and stupid all the faces he's doing in the reconstruction are. Dave, you've described it as like giving Tim Robinson in the
100%.
100% it is that. That look from Kat when she's like pouring it and just glances at the camera is hilarious. There's a really specific thing she does here when she says, when Esther says Madame Puckerbrush, that the delayed reaction here of like, oh, it sells that she's drunk. It's the best drunk acting I genuinely think I've ever seen, because it's really subtle, and it's just that like it's taken a few seconds to like buffer and for her to come and look and engage with what you're saying. Genuinely think it's an incredible bit of acting.
She's fantastic in this.
Just before the interval.
Again, Robert's dressed to this so well; it just looks fantastic. And now, Darren, Alex, you're being implicated.
I presumed he was busy doing backstage worker things, like wearing a tiny headset and not getting the credit for his work.
Backstage workers, we see you.
Yeah.
That line hurts.
Thank you for all you do. James, you say it as if we've ever had backstage workers. we have,
like
workers.
at Edinburgh, we had backstage
they
workers.
They were working for the Pleasants.
They were
backstage
like,
with us. We were the ones doing all the scene changes, everything else. Yeah, we've never seen, we've seen other people's backstage work.
I mean, you're literally wearing his face on a t-shirt.
Why are you even asking about me?
And so, yeah,
This
again,
documentary is meant
you're
to
starting
be
to get
about
so
Keith,
angry.
about how amazing he
Unraveling.
And
was.
it's just a nice bit of
And
shading.
no
I
one
think,
else
like
got into
everyone else, well, not everyone else, but almost everyone else, the reason they might have killed Keith is because they hated him. And it is obviously quite a common trope to have the super fan who's obsessive and takes it too far, but it's such a nice bit of contrast to everyone else in that you clearly loved Keith, but then it's got this darker edge to him. And Alex, you're so... I've never seen you as this convincingly angry and upset. Even when you have been angry and upset, I haven't believed it.
Then what happened wouldn't have happened.
What do you mean by that?
No, I'm done. I'm done. You can forget it.
It's just he's so... Compared to someone like Madison, he's just not as in control. He's trying to be as in control as someone like Madison, and it's not working at all. Brief little cameo from Chris Stone, who is an actual POP.
Good old Chris.
Very stupid.
I love that.
A question, Miss.
Sure.
Do you think fungo is...
This is a nice thing of like it goes on repeat in our heads. Like a little,
just a little hint.
Oh,
yeah. It's not saying that she definitely likes it, just means that just fucking get out of her head.
Wait, sorry, you think fungo...
Not a tip.
I think originally, we didn't end up needing it. I think originally in the script, we had cutbacks to all the sinister things Fungo had said around this point. Didn't need it at all. I think it was in an early version of the script.
Right.
But now, on an episode with many highlights, this is certainly up there. I'm going to pause here for a second because there's... Oh, I've just missed it. I'll see if I can bring it back because there's little things before we get into the marvelous David K. Barnes as Dr. Aaron Legleg. Okay, so tiny thing here, but you can see the call list, Esther Farrago's call list here. And so obviously, given Darren Wound's storm out, she tried to call him. Chris Stone, I think, is on there. Rory Cargill, who we've both established are part of the camera crew. But the little thing that's in there is right at the bottom, you can see Cassie Cashew, which is, of course, the real identity of Madame Puckerbrush. So it's like, you wouldn't know it's a clue. It's not something that you would see and you have nothing to connect it with until the ending. But once you have already seen the show, if you rewatch it, you can see she called Madame Puckerbrush.
Very good.
The actor playing Madame Puckerbrush. And then yes, we have this. Now, this shot specifically was, I think it's the Tinder Swindler or one of these other Netflix documentaries. It just feels like a bit of a trope at the moment where they open with the phone on a table and we're seeing stuff that's happening on a phone.
Right.
Anyway, thank you for getting back to me. I'm calling on behalf of...
He's so good in this. It's
fantastic.
sickening. So David created a podcast sitcom called Wooden Overcoats, which is how I met. I think it's probably partly how is it how I met you, Odin? Was through them?
No, it was through Andy Goddard. That
was through Andy Goddard. Yes. So
although I suppose this was actually. Yeah, because Andy worked on Wooden Overcoats.
That's right. We worked because he introduced us for Hector versus the Future, but yes, it was the sort of Wooden Overcoats connection.
Yeah. Confirm the presence of
it's so funny. Luke left a comment at one point in the edit notes saying it's annoying that David gives the best performance in the whole thing.
I love him saying, "Okay, good note."
So I asked David to script edit the series for us, so I gave him a bit of money. Thankfully did it for a very low rate, but he's very, if you want a script editor, David K. Barnes, he's the best. And so he gave me some great notes on the scripts once they were kind of near finished, but also he really specifically asked, "Can I play Aaron Legleg?" when he read episode 3. This was a request he had, and it's partly, I think, because in Wooden Overcoats he plays a character called Dr. Edgware, and for him, I think he's maybe done it in something else as well, whereas like he's played a doctor, and so I think he's just a little in joke for himself that he doesn't get cast as a doctor in things. So he specifically asked to play Dr. Legleg, and I gave it to him.
I was there on the day that we shot this and just sat behind the camera, just watching him do this. It's so funny. Like we were all just like trying not to ruin the takes. It was so funny.
He's hilarious. Nice cat, Alex.
Thank you.
Fantastic cat.
Yeah.
And Henry's on fire.
Oh, they've charged.
Not really. That's special effects.
Special effects.
Yeah, the fire looks really good.
And so here, Odinn and Dave.
Recording.
Good to hear the full song. We went to a nice, fun little recording studio to do this.
Yes, that was really nice. I've got some good footage somewhere of Dave really getting into the performance for this, which was lovely. So I think when we were actually shooting this, Odinn, we just had your demo.
Yes.
For things like performing the song in episode 5 and for any other bits. I think there was one bit in the script that we ended up cutting for episode 2, actually, where you have characters like Alex, your character, singing along to Fungostein, the Fungostein theme.
Yeah. Yes.
And obviously, you, Odinn, you do the vocals for the theme for Fungostein, so it was quite close to the final version.
Yeah.
But then for filming, we just had the version where you're doing all the vocals for this song, and then yes, we had to go to a recording studio, get the finished version.
And we did a bunch of other things, like we did my Parky but not Parky there. We also did a few ADR bits for Lucy, where she wasn't able to be in the room.
Yeah, she was there for like almost everything, but I think there was a bit of Luke's scenes where she wasn't there, and I think 1 or 2 lines that we wanted to just like adjust cheekily elsewhere.
Yeah, and I think actually in the theatre where that's
yes, in the
recorded
theatre she
then
wasn't
as well.
there either.
So
Yes, that's right.
So then a few other small lines, but yeah, that was a nice.
Yeah,
quite late,
and then
quite
also
late
I
in the
think
process actually.
Crumb's vocals as well for the song. I think for the song when you hear it in episode 5 as well, because I think that's right, isn't it? Because you obviously hear Crumb in this, and Dave, you're voicing Crumb and Dickie. But I think Crumb's actual vocals in episode 5. You
Is
also
that right?
recorded on that day, is that correct?
Oh no, I think that was you recorded that on location. I think.
Or maybe you did.
In which bit? Sorry.
Oh no,
In episode
no, I think
5,
you're right. No,
when
I can't
Crumb
remember.
is singing,
Yeah.
was that recorded later, or did you do that on the day?
I think that was actually later. No, I'm I'm going back. And
I
forth.
can't remember. I feel like that was later.
I think it
we'll
was.
Find out. We'll leave a comment. But yeah, either way, we did do a lot of re-records. Not a lot of re-records, but yeah, little things like that. We had to record the 999 operator, and that was Kat Davies, who's fantastic.
Yeah.
Luke suggested her, and she's so funny, and like met us. I wish we'd given her more stuff to do. She's great. But she does also do the voice of like I think the West Enders person in episode 6. And yeah, but anyway, so that's episode 3. So does anyone have any other particular takeaways, thoughts, things they didn't get a chance to discuss for episode 3?
Don't know.
We covered quite
No,
a
I
lot.
think it just kind of made me think, like obviously with the music video bit, I think it's really nice that throughout the series you do have those little moments that aren't even that long, but they really take you away from the break up the talking heads and just give like an extra kind of layer to it. And it's the same with the opening titles of the TV show and other things like that. Just things that works really nicely.
It just makes the world feel real, doesn't it? It makes it feel like this is all true and it did exist. I don't think we've brought it up specifically, but the show American Vandal is the Netflix show that's like this sort of true crime documentary parody. It's made by high schoolers. It was I think when the first season came out, it was like very popular. It was a hit show for Netflix. And that was, that's such an incredible show. And it was such a particular touch point for me because throughout they play the truth of the true crime documentary. They play it very straight. I mean, I call it a parody, but at no point are they kind of they're not treating it like the actual documentary itself as a joke. The documentary is being taken very seriously. It's just that what they're discussing and how they're going about it is funny, but it's all played very, very straight. And that's something that I think we've always wanted to do in terms of how we approach most of the films that we've made. Like, rather than sort of playing big and cartoony, so especially when we're on screen, we want to be playing them real. But then especially with something like this, really, really wanting to kind of play the reality of it and go, no, this is plausible that this happened and these characters are real. And I think for us, it just makes it funnier. And part of that is beyond the performances, is just building out the world a little bit and making it feel real. And I think it is the difference between, I mean, it was relatively speaking, as a show, very low budget. It's such a weird one, isn't it? Because for us, the cost of this show was huge. Like, I mean, it was, it's in pounds, I think it was probably by the end, like, I think around 30 grand, like which is for us a lot of money, but for making a TV show is nothing, is a drop in the bucket. And I'm like, to have made something that looks as good as it does, and credit obviously mostly to Roberts and to Chris Stone, who literally make it look visually that good. But everybody, like, I think every aspect of it, like Odinn, of course, the score, and I'm not just saying this because you're right here in front of me, but the score is so professional and so good. And the animation that Aaron did for the Fungostein theme, everything is done really professionally. And so it's really like, I think this episode is such a good example of that, especially because when we do get into the reconstructions, that is a big, ambitious step away from the talking heads bit of the show. And so, if like the fact we were able to do this for, relatively speaking, a tiny, tiny budget, something I'm really proud of, honestly. Like, everybody who ever sees anything that we do on film has commented on how good it looks always and how professional it looks. And sometimes I think when we've done sketches, that's annoyed me because I'd rather people said it was funny. Like, and it's like, oh, it looks so great, and it's like, I think it's genuinely probably just coming from people aren't used to stuff people make by themselves looking as good as our stuff does. But it's like with a lot of our sketches, sometimes it's like, yeah, I know it looks good. That's not why I'm showing this to you. Laugh at me. But with this, I think we didn't have that so much as a problem. I think people, thankfully, been very complimentary on like the comedy of it all. But with this, there's, actually, it's a slight segue, but I think an important thing to talk about. Weirdly, there's sketches that we've done in the past. Roberts has always made our stuff look very good, but sometimes with comedy, I think it gets in the way. I don't mean this is a criticism of Roberts, but I think it gets in the way if what you're making looks super polished. And sometimes it works a lot better to have something feel a little bit more homemade and ramshackle and makes it feel funnier. And so there have been times where I think our approach with Roberts hasn't necessarily been the best for particular sketches where it might have worked to feel a little bit more homemade. The ones that we've done with Roberts that have been the most successful are the ones that directly benefit from having the kind of polish that he naturally brings. So the Brum trailer is a good example of that, right? Because you want it to look very polished and very professional, and he knows how to do that, and so he can elevate it massively. We talk about this in a different commentary. In next week's commentary, we recorded these out of order. Sorry, but the sofa sketch, the mental health sketch, because Roberts has done ads and he knows how to make that stuff look like exactly right. He crushed that one, and it looks so good, and it's absolutely right. And it's one of those things where the way it's filmed makes it funny.
It matters,
it matters a lot. And similarly
can you edit in a link to that sketch and put it like here, and people
put it right there? I can. I mean,
Brum, you could do Brums. I mean, that's
you point at Brum. David and I will.
Everyone point at where they think Brum is, and I'll make a choice, and we'll put Brum in. but with this really lent into Robert's strengths as well, because the whole point is glossy Netflix documentary, and Roberts has done a bunch of corporate work where he's had to do talking heads like this. So has Chris Stone, our DOP. Like, they've worked together on a bunch of that stuff, and so it really benefits like their experience and then just the show that all gets filtered in, and I think then makes it funnier because it has that degree of polish. And the same is true for American Vandal. Like, even though it's meant to be high school kids making it, it's incredibly polished in a way that makes it funnier because it's really leaning into what we're familiar with from a true crime film.
Yeah, I think there's something to be said about kind of like a straight-faced sincerity with comedy, like someone who will look at you in the eye with a complete straight face, like the one-liner comedian Steve Wright, and just say some of the funniest stuff that you've ever heard.
He's so good.
Yeah, and it's that extra little bit funny because he's so deadpan, and that maybe that doesn't fully apply to
but like it's so absurdist and so straight faced. I remember I think I was about 18. I don't even remember how I discovered him, but I had a comedy album of his, and his stuff is all just like one-liners. And I don't think I've listened to him for like 20 years at this point, but like maybe like 15 years or whatever, but like I'm not 40. But there is there's a joke that's just living in my head rent free from that album, which is him saying, like, I went to the 24-hour store, and when I got there, the guy was closing the shop, and I said, what are you doing? I thought the shop was open 24 hours. The guy said, yeah, not in a row. It's such a great joke. And it is that absurdity that's just delivered like completely straight. And I think it's just because I think if you're trying to conjure that image, I guess, in somebody's head, you want them to buy that this happened. It's funny because it feels real. Like, because if you deliver that joke, that 24-hour joke straight, what's funny is you're then just I guess picturing the logic of this guy's only opening his shop for 24 hours total. And then with something like this, it's like if we were playing it, I really like the Mighty Boosh is a weird sort of counter example to this, right? Is that I remember when the Mighty Boosh was really popular when we were like 18, 19, and like that was always a show that I feel like I admired more than I liked. I liked that they'd sort of created a world. I thought what they did was funny, but it was all wink to camera, and it was all like, breaking the fourth wall a lot, and it was all like, we're just mucking around being goofs, and like that's fine. But what by contrast, like the League of Gentlemen guys did with this, and with Psychoville and with Inside Number 9, is really sell you on the reality of it. And I think obviously that opens you up for making it more emotional or darker or weirder or really drawing the audience in. But genuinely also, I think it's not just that, it does make it funnier because that you're asking people to believe something completely absurd. And if you do it, it's like when you're trying to convince a gullible person of something that you've made up. If you deliver it completely sincerely, the joke comes from them going like, wait, is that real? That feels like it's real.
I know we strayed quite far from talking about the show, but
I'm sorry, it's probably my fault.
No, that's fine. But another example I feel is also 30 Rock it blows my mind just remembering like how old 30 Rock is, the show by Tina Fey. Because if you imagine that show as a multi-camera sitcom, it completely changes the tone of the show. But actually, that's a show that is quite early for its time in just being single camera sitcom-like a comedy show, but very absurdist, really absurdist, and everything is sort of said with a straight face and some really, really wacky, crazy characters in there. And it would just feel completely different if it was a multi-camera sitcom with, a live audience. But you're this voyeur in this real world behind the scenes of, the making of a show at NBC. And that gives it this edge of kind of reality and this edge of like, you're watching something, you're watching people, but they're really wacky, they're really crazy. And that tips the comedy up a bit. Because it's
100%.
just so, it feels a lot realer, and that reality gives it more body to feeling kind of a bit funnier because
totally. Yeah, I'll bring out like one last example, which is obviously a big influence for us and has always been, but Garth Marenghi's Dark Place is obviously very tangible influence on this. And Garth Marenghi's Dark Place is so silly, and the characters are so completely fucking absurd, and they're right on the far end of that spectrum of like, these are big cartoonish weird characters, but there's no wink to camera. Everything is played completely seriously. None of it is, the characters don't treat anything they are doing as a joke, but obviously the people making it obviously know it's a joke and know how funny it is. And I think that's the thing, isn't it? It's like it sounds bad when you put it as like laughing at other people, but what you're laughing at is like people who are taking something very silly very seriously because it matters to them. And I think there is always something really comedically strong about like, oh, a character really cares about something and they're trying really hard at it, but they're bad at it. It's like, and I think in order for that to work, you have to believe they do care and that it does matter to them. And so when you look at Tom in this episode, it's like what makes, you can look at it just from an acting point of view and go like, oh, Luke's so good because he's convincingly upset, but it makes it so much funnier that he's convincingly upset because it allows you to buy that he would insist on that reconstruction and do that whole thing, and that Tom is a terrible actor, so of course he's going to do these like big over the top expressions, but also that emotion is there and it's funny because you just feel so fucking sorry for him.
But then also David as Dickie, I think with a real feeling of anger and frustration,
the resentment,
the resentment, the seething, just like envy as well. That is played so sincerely and is so much funnier for it. And you see it in the way he scrunches that paper and the throw, as you called it.
After many takes. But then it's also, I think it's the fact, and then you've got that combined with the fact that like, not only was he super successful, but I remember, I think I talked about this in episode 2, but I remember specifically asking Alex, I think, for, like, I had the structure for what Dickie's thing was going to be. Like, I wanted to flesh him out a bit, and I was like, okay, he has become super successful, but his life is a mess. And Alex, you suggested human rights lawyer, I think, and it was just that specificity. And it's like, but then off the back of that, it's like when you say that he won the Nobel Peace Prize and he was unhappy about it, it's mental, but but it works because you're playing it completely truthfully. And that's lovely. All right, I think we should probably end it there. This one gets too long. But this was lovely. Thank you, Jen. This is really lovely.
Thanks, guys.
It's nice to reminisce, talk about episodes.
And thanks to you at home for watching.
Thank you, you at home, you
or wherever you are. You on the train, you at home, you at work.
How many years time?
That one is there, and you're there.
And Brum is.
I think we established.
Watch our other sketches; they're mostly pretty good. All right. We'll see you all for episode 4, which is of course next week. Until then, bye bye, and thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.